Welcome to the podcast family. My name is Paul. I am a recovered alcoholic addict in Peterhead in Scotland. I'm really pleased today to have been joined by Kando. So what we're going to do, we're going to be sharing about recovery and the solution we've found for life and sobriety. There'll be things on the screen later during the podcast where you can get resources and get some help. Feel free to pause, rewind, and share this podcast. Do check out the other broadcasts on the channel, of which there are many personal stories, podcasts on all the steps, on the traditions, ABCs of addiction, the spiritual malady, addiction and recovery. There's all kinds of resources available. We also have current lists of male and female sponsors that are ready, willing, and able to take you through the 12-step process so you can be set free to live life in recovery. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to hand the floor to Kando. Over to you, my friend.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Kando. I'm a recovered alcoholic and addict. Thank you very much, Paul, for giving me this opportunity to share my story, to talk about what's happened with me, and what's happening with me now as a recovered addict. So to me, my whole journey of life really is one huge, discovery. And I think the biggest turning point for me was the realization that I was really, to a large extent, in fact, I was totally killing myself by engaging in certain behaviors with alcohol, with food, with sex, with money. And upon making that realization, just making the turnaround. And that turnaround is not something that I've been able to do on my own, so it's been taking place by me attending 12-step fellowships, and later on by me, taking, helping other people through providing rehab programs and just one-on-one work in the 12-step fellowships. Oh, I see there's a lot of sunlight in the background. So I'm just trying to move to a position which has less sunlight. Oh, I think maybe that one looks okay.
No problem. You're fine. You're absolutely fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I live here in what is more of the southern part of Africa, in a country called Zambia. Right now, I'm in a town called Kafue, which is just adjacent to the big river, the Kafue River. This is where I'm doing my work from, working with addicts in recovery. So I particularly work with addicts in recovery. So if somebody crosses my path, then they're bound to be hit with recovery. That's just the way it's going now, because I've got very little tolerance for the addiction, because it doesn't serve any good purpose to anybody. It is a destructive act. It was a destructive act for me to be in any of my addictions. So I have to really veer away from the addictions. I was born here in Zambia, in Lusaka, and grew up most of my life in Lusaka, even if I've been to other towns as well. And my family was like, basically my dad was pretty well-educated man, and so was my mother, and they gave me the best they could. and I'm really appreciative of that. So it has gone a long way in making me the man I am, and it's going to go a long way in making me the man I'm going to be. My wish is really to honor these people, because they really gave me the best they could. They worked hard to make sure I'm the best person I could be, gave me the best advice, and gave me the best opportunities they could give. And here I am today, and despite their best efforts, I still ended up being an addict. I didn't realize it for many years. So from the way I see it, my addiction started right from childhood. I can recall how I used to get headaches when I was young, and I used to, like watch TV from the start. Those days TV would close out. The TV would start at 5 o'clock in the evening and then close at 22, and I would sit there the whole time, even eat there. I didn't realize that was a tendency. And I think my headaches were really caused by my my addiction to some foods and things like that, and so I grew up like that. My addictions eventually culminated in my addiction to alcohol, which I discovered I discovered alcohol in my teen years. The first time I ever tasted alcohol, okay, my dad used to give us like thoughts and things like that. The thought of the alcohol is drinking, Christmas, New Year's, things like that. But I hated the stuff. Stuff was used to burn me, so I didn't like it at all. But there was just something I would see about it which I thought was cool. There were people who drink it, even when my father would be drinking a beer, and then the bubbles in the glass and things like that. So I sort of somehow found the life alluring. And in my teen years, I tried to drink some alcohol, and I even remember the name of the wine. It was like called Bonita wine, and we went to this shopping center, Woodlands Shopping Center in Lusaka, and bought that wine. And I can't remember how much I drank, but what happened was I went into a blackout and I couldn't remember exactly what I did. And the next thing, I think I was sleeping, and but then somehow I still wanted to do it again. So in my days of secondary school, in my days of high school, I experimented again, and had horrible results like vomiting and things like that. But I still went back to it. There's something that it made me feel, which I had to go back to. It made me feel a part of. It made me feel more whole. So I still went back despite the negative consequences. And when I completed my secondary school, here in Zambia, would have a gap year. Those days, have a gap year between going to school and going to university or college. And during that period, I really, went deeper into my alcoholism, and I started drinking basically on a daily basis when I hadn't started. My tertiary education, and complaints started coming from my family. Those who were not drinking, those who were drinking, I was drinking with them. And I didn't think much of it. A lot of advice was coming, especially from my mother. Saying, who can destroy you, and And I heard those things and I wanted to stop, but then in a very subtle way, I was failing to stop, So there would be periods where I'd stop for a short period of time and then I'd tell myself, no, I'm just going to drink a bit, and I'd find myself drinking a lot, So my initial decision always not to overdo it. My initial decision was always just to get enough. But then all the time I could never get just enough, I would end up taking more than was necessary. And, basically lethal amounts of the alcohol. And this got worse, just kept on getting worse with time through my college. It had its impact. And after I completed, it took me longer to complete my 3-year program. I took like 7 years to complete it, to a good extent because of my isms, my alcoholism, and but I eventually completed, and after I completed it, I was getting a pay, I was finding myself in credits a lot of times. I didn't reach a point whereby I would stay away many days from work, but there were days when I would miss work or almost miss work or go to work with hangover and things like that. But I was still straying a number of days without drinking, but then I would go right back. I'd go right back, and then I would, risk everything, spend my money. Once I'd start drinking, I couldn't stop. I just had to keep on drinking until my money finishes or I black out or something like that. It's I'll have to do something. I'll have to go to work or something like that. And I can recall, like my first job was in dollar. I studied production management. These days it's called operations management. So I was working in a factory in Dollar as a supervisor, and there were days when I would go for work sort of drunk, but it wasn't so serious then, but it was getting worse. And I came back to Lusaka, and the same problem continued, but it was getting worse now. This job was even more demanding. I had to work like 7 days a week. And there were times when I could miss shifts because I'm drunk. And then I realized there was a problem here. And I took myself to the psychiatrist. And I was prescribed some medication, which was very helpful. It helped really calm me down and just face the situations. And I stayed sober for a while. And then the thought came again that, I could just drink a bit and I should be okay, because now I'm physically strong, I'm that strong. In fact, that relapse I had, I remember, was after a sister of mine passed away. And I noticed that I was drinking a bit more than usual. So I took myself to the psychiatrist, and they prescribed some medication for me, and I started taking the medication, and I was doing much better physically and mentally for a while, until the day I decided, let me just have one or two, and then I couldn't stop it again, so I just had to start all over again. And so what my pattern was I'll drink for a number of days, then after a while I'd feel like I feel like depressed and things like that. I think, according to my own diagnosis of myself, I think I had bipolar, where I would be excited, and the next moment I'm very, very depressed. It would be like a cycle, very, very energetic, So basically manic, you know, and then the next moment I'm like totally depressed, you know. So that happened to me like on and off, on and off. And that's how I decided I needed to see the psychiatrist and give me some medication, and it really helped calm me down and keep me more even for a while until I decided to take one drink, and it was so easy to get deceived that I'm okay now, you know, because everything seemed at peace. So which means I didn't see any need to make any effort to do anything else. So I had tried again to drink, and I started all over again, you know. And it was common for me to be in debt because of the drinking. You know, it was common for me to, not meet my obligations, not be responsible. Yeah, so it was, like always taking steps backwards, going for work every day, but then at the same time, erasing the benefits of the work by drinking, basically drinking more than I could spend. So I was constantly in credit, and I started blaming other people, and I blamed my parents. Then I blamed my parents, like, why, things are going wrong with me. Then it's because they didn't do this for me when I was young. They didn't do this for me in my upbringing. They didn't do that. And next was my government. This government is this. This government is that. What. So I thought, if I could just live in a better country, and also maybe stay away from the negative influence from my parents, then things would be better. So I migrated. I went to South Africa. I was like, oh, there's too much stress in my country, and I really, really, I regret that, because Zambia is a great country. It's done a lot of things for me. I mean, the same people who wanted me to work for them in South Africa were employing me based on what this country did for me. So it was like paradoxical. How can it be such a horrible country when it's made you, it's added so much value to me? How could it be a horrible country at the same time? So that didn't make sense. But then to me, because of the emotions which were going on in my systems, I thought I needed to blame. I had to find something or someone to blame because I didn't know any better. So I was blaming everybody around me. I know nobody was doing so okay. I blame the management for the companies I was working for this and for that, you know. But you know, and but now in recovery, I've learned different. In recovery, I become the difference I want to see. If I want to see something differently, then I make that difference. I don't need to wait for other people to make that difference for me. I make that difference. Yeah. So I left the country and went to South Africa and started working there. And I found cheaper alcohol there, and I had a bigger salary. So things simply, So that was like now a recipe for an even bigger binges. And I had many near fatal experiences. I had many near fatal experiences. So in case you're wondering what's making the noise, there's that cock there, which is making the noise.
He's
Yeah.
enjoying the share.
I think so. Oh, that's his expression of how he's enjoying the share. Yeah. So I had, walking and I'm walking there in the early. Sometimes I won't be touched. Other days I'd be touched, I'd be harmed. So I'm a survivor. That's how addiction. That's one way addiction kills. Just putting myself in dangerous situations, and I survive.
Kando, your signal's going off, my friend.
And from that is where I found the solution, because he apparently told another family member of mine about my situation, and that family member was actually in a 12-stepping program. So that's how I was introduced to a 12-stepping program, and it worked. But before that, I'd tried a lot of other things to stop the drinking. Just from the beginning, when people started complaining, I wanted to find a way to stop the drinking and still have the fun. I'd never found it. I'd never found it. But then now I found this way, and I was like, let me try one more time and see, maybe this could work. Just the way it was presented to me, yeah, showed me that maybe it's possible. There were these people who I met, at that same 12-step meeting, who I couldn't argue against, whatever they were doing looked like it was working. And I had no counter against what was going on there. I saw they had this picture of this man, and I thought, oh, maybe a cult. But but then at the same time, and they were not saying Jesus Christ, so I thought, oh, maybe a cult, because I'm Christian, you know. But then the way they were friendly, the way they were, really open to me, the way they were just very, very, very available to help me, convinced me this is a place I would want to be. These people are positive. In fact, the relative who told me about the program, told me, you meet some positive people there, and for sure there were positive people there, and so I had no comeback against what these guys had to offer. But then, even after having gone there, I still drank again. And again, I got into another near fatal situation. The addiction almost killed me. I mean, if it had killed me on my death certificate, they would have just said assault. Nobody would have said addiction, But it was the addiction which would have killed me, because it would have put me in that dangerous situation, which was totally, totally avoidable. But then, because of the twisted thinking I had, I I'd put myself again in a dangerous situation. So I survived that. And that was after I had already started going to those 12-step meetings. And then somewhere within myself, I just felt like, I think, let me give this thing a real shot, So I went back to that meeting, and it was on a Monday evening. I went there, a broken man, baffled, like totally beaten, because I tried, doing it my own way, and it had failed. So I went back there, like, beaten. So, and that is how my journey started. And that was, somebody's calling me. That was May 6th, 2013. Yeah, somebody's calling me. Yeah, okay, so that was May 16th, 2013. And since that day, I've never drunk again. You know, I've had situations where I almost drunk, but I've survived. Here I am today, very okay, you know, sober. Uh, Actually, the temptation is almost like every day, because it doesn't come like, you know, like covertly. You know, it comes disguised in many other forms, and then eventually comes back and just bite me. But what I've learned, you know, in recovery is to really pick out the problem way before it starts, and simply nip it in the bud. That's the only way that works, you know, not get into the fight in the first place. So then there'll never be a fight. And this has continued to serve me for almost 11 years now. And I've discovered my other addictions as well. I know no one is always affected just by one addiction, because if I'm in recovery, then I'm dealing with my addictions. It's not just one addiction, it's many addictions. Because when I was in active addiction, when I'm not drinking, then I'll be active in another addiction. You know, it's always like that. There's always something running. There's always something running. But then when the turnaround is made, when I like make the turnaround, then all the other addictions got suppressed, or were getting suppressed. But then in my life in addiction, all my addictions were always getting worse and worse. But in my life in recovery, all my addictions are always getting better. My recovery is always getting better and better and better. So I'm becoming more and more aware of what is going on, and what can happen. So which means I really put measures in place well before they become worse. And that is my life of recovery, which I started like 11 years ago. And then almost immediately I got into recovery. I would be disturbed by seeing people not staying in recovery, because so my turnaround was like night and day. Like when I saw what I was missing out, I was like, why does everybody have this? In fact, I didn't think it just in terms of the people I found in the 12-step rooms. I was like, why are these people driving by here when there's such a great thing happening here? Why aren't they participating? And my thinking was correct, because everybody has some addiction in one way or another, because the the process by which addiction takes place is a natural process, but then which is just, in a way, in an abused state, or it is like not being used the way it's supposed to be, then it becomes addiction. But the whole reward system, which can become addiction, is very natural. And I was thinking, why isn't the whole world chasing this good thing that I've just discovered? Because I'd never felt that free before in my life. I'd never felt, so liberated, so clear-minded as before. So almost immediately I was thinking, why aren't these people here? To this day, I still ask myself those questions, like, why aren't these people here? How can they get into it as well? So when I'm dealing with what is called a 12-step core, which is basically, dealing with an addict and their family, I don't only look at how I can help the addict. I also look at how I can help the family, because these problems affect everybody. Everybody is affected by addiction, which is usually just a misuse of the reward system. And I think we addicts, really reach the rock bottom levels which a lot of other people don't reach. And then that sort of puts us on a pedestal for everybody to be able to see that that we are addicts. But essentially, everybody is an addict because nobody uses their reward system perfectly. You know, everybody somewhere, somehow will abuse their reward system. And the moment that happens, then that's addiction. You know, but then some of us reached rock bottom levels, which were just out there for everybody to see. And that has given us that label, which is accurate, you know, and it is so a blessing in disguise. In one way, it looks like it's a curse. On the other way, it was the way by which I could get my insight into myself. I don't think just, you know, for experiencing good, I could have realized that there was such a thing. So I sort of needed that. So these days I do put myself in situations which will make me realize things. So pain is my friend now. Sometimes I put myself in situations which are painful and uncomfortable to help me to see things better. You know, then I had to be forced. So that's one of the gifts of recovery I've received, is just being willing and available to step into new situations and new things. That is why I'm here on a public platform talking about my addiction. So my name is Kando, and I'm a recovered addict. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my story.
Super. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, taking time to carry a message of hope and freedom. I really, really enjoyed your share. You know, I felt it was very wise, very experienced, and very mature share, very relatable. You know, I just want to say, for anyone that may be new to the channel, do feel free to put your number in the chat and we will get back to you. If you're looking for sponsorship, again, let us know and we'll send you the sponsorship list directly on WhatsApp. There's also lots of meetings. In a few moments, there'll be information on the screen about how to get to in-person meetings and Zoom meetings. Please don't be put off coming to a Zoom meeting. In no way are you obliged to put your camera on. In fact, 8 or 9 out of 10 people do not put the camera on, so you definitely won't be obliged to put your camera on, nor will you be obliged to even speak. So please, if you're new, don't be put off coming to a Zoom meeting to hear messages just like this of hope, faith, and courage. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed your share. I felt it was very relatable and that we had quite a bit in common. You got me thinking. I particularly enjoyed the topic of what I got was the need to maintain our freedom and the need to grow personally and to maintain you know, the desire to improve oneself, you know, and to continue with self-examination and vigilance, you know. And I myself managed to get clear of tobacco addiction a number of years now, and that was some time into recovery, and I found that very, very difficult. I really did. I found it emotionally, mentally, and even physically painful. Physically painful in terms of chest pains, you know, and then the physical craving. You know, I think when it comes to alcohol, heroin, and nicotine, the physical craving, you definitely know the physical phenomena of craving when it comes to those substances. But I found it very painful to give up tobacco. I really, really did, and it took me months and months of anguish. And what I realised now, Kando, is that was my journey to step one concerning tobacco. You know, I could have told you all kinds of wonderful things about the steps, and the fellowship, and the literature, and the scripture. But the truth of the matter is I didn't have step one concerning tobacco. You know, these are very adjusting and humbling truths. You know, I didn't have step one in terms of tobacco. By the grace of God alone and the loving kindness of God alone, I do now. And then I went on to vaping. I thought that was a viable option. Not quite as painful, but it took me over 6 months to get clear of vaping. That became something, you know. And just briefly before I come off this topic, I realise it's not strictly mood or mind altering substances, but my experience counts, you know. And it's such a visceral thing. It's tobacco and vaping because it's hand to mouth. Well, that's how we eat, hand to mouth. It involves breathing, which is the most intrinsic and important action the body does, arguably. So it involves breathing, it involves hand to mouth, and it's also how we do things, you know, and we carry the substances with us. So I find that very difficult. And the reason why I share that is it reminds me of the first step in humility and willingness and reality, and how cunning, baffling, and powerful the Lord power, the devil, alcoholism, addiction is, you know. So, look, I really appreciate it. And I'd like to invite you back in to share again. We've got like 10 minutes left, you know. So, in terms of the years you went through and moving places and continuing to use and booze, you know, and getting more money and thinking you would carry on, you know, it truly is miraculous, you know, that we've got this freedom. And the essence of what we do in these rooms is sharing our understanding and experience of living clean and sober. That's the essence of what we do. And it's a very powerful thing. You know, that Silkworth points that out at the beginning of the Doctor's Opinion in Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book. The essence is our honest sharing, which is therapeutic to the ear. And in a world of wickedness and delusion, the truth is still very appealing to people. You know, and largely in 12-step meetings, you'll hear the truth. You know, that's largely what you'll hear, and that's attractive. And people feel attached to such groups. And people are affected by such groups. Silkworth goes on to explain that the program is moral psychology plus divine power. So it's human responsibility plus divine sovereignty. That's what this process is. It's not one or the other. I've known people die because for them it's all been about human knowledge and human power. I've known people die because for them it's all been about God and divine power. They haven't figured out the human responsibility side. Well, it's not one or the other. It's like two train tracks. They have to be perfectly in line. You know, otherwise the train, no matter how fancy the train is or how great one of the lines is, it's not going to work. You know, I'll leave it with this and let you back in, my friend. You know, I've known people really, really struggle because they haven't got both, and the steps help you to have both things, if you like, both realities operative in the life, to give continuous sobriety one day at a time. And it's a wonderful process, and more is revealed. You know, God gives us knowledge and wisdom and serenity and balance. What a gift. Over to you, my friend. Come on in. Oh, you're muted. Come on in.
Oh, so as you were speaking, you know, I related to my story. You know, like the first time I went to the meeting, what I heard there was the truth. And I heard recently from one of it was actually a preacher who said it, that, you know, I don't get to know the truth. I know the truth already. You know, it's there and it's embedded in my spirit. And so, which means when I come across the truth, somewhere, somehow, I'll know this is the truth, you know. So that's what happened with me, you know. As you were speaking, I figured it out. That's the first meeting I went to. I heard the truth and I just couldn't run away from it because I knew that was the truth. This is the truth I was looking for. And I experience that all the time, because when I go out into the world to help other people, what I use is my story. You know, I tell them the truth about what happened with me and what's happening with me now. And when people hear that truth, they resonate with it because they know it deep inside. They know it, and there's no comeback against it because they know it's the truth, and they respond positively. I mean, nobody has ever responded negatively. I mean, the people who, I think, the most negative response I've got is simply, you know, not taking my call. And I know that's associated with shame, you know. And if a person were to go, only one person has gone to the point of saying, I don't want to talk to you and things like that. And that person had literally lost their mind. They were not in their true self. So which means their ability to perceive was really like blotted out to a very, very large extent. Yeah, and so which means a person who hears the truth, who know the truth, and probably even that person's reaction was really because they heard the truth, and it was really resonating so much that they couldn't take it. They just didn't have the capacity to take it. Yeah, but that's the way it is. I experience that on a daily basis. Just being true to who I am and to myself. Even my hairstyle expresses the truth about myself. I've decided to keep, long hair and a beard, and it's just a unique expression of me. It's an expression of my freedom. So I have my Afro hair growing. Some people call it nappy, but it's like my true self, the way I am, is what I'm expressing, and I just love to express that and not necessarily conform, but which is okay. If somebody wants to conform, they can all still go ahead and conform. But I feel I would want to express my appearance as the way I am. My hair is not relaxed to mimic other people's hair. My hair is kinky the way it was made to be. My beard, it has grown just the way it was. It's not like cut in a certain way. So I'm happy with the truth. I'm comfortable in my own skin. This is a freedom I've got in recovery. And this is something I would love to keep expressing in my recovery. Thanks for letting me share for now.
Lovely. That's super lovely. That's wonderful to you this morning. And yes, and just a couple of points. I'll just mute you for a moment. Then there's not any feedback. In terms of thinking the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, just going back to your point of moving, and then you mentioned how, you felt that your country was good to you, and we know that all goodness comes from God, don't we? And I think in meetings, what we encounter is God. The bigger picture is that God's reaching us, you understand, and God reaches us through each other. God's reached me through you today, and I'm sure God will continue to reach many people through you. That's how God works at the present time, and we're His hands and His feet, aren't we? And so it can very much seem that the grass is greener, but to be at peace in your own skin, what a wonderful thing. I just wanted to talk about conspiracy of circumstances, the desire to get and stay clean. What would happen is, Kando, for me, is various circumstances would happen. Now, of course, circumstances can't conspire together, but that's how it seems. Well, that's how it seems. The truth is that using would generate these circumstances, and then at some point I had to arrive at a moral conclusion deep within that this lifestyle was unmanageable, and that was the bedrock of my commitment to staying clean. You understand? It was a process of coming to believe that lifestyle was unacceptable, was unmanageable, and learning about why that is. The problem centers in the mind. It manifests in the body in terms of ingesting addictive substances. And we know that if we take a drink, the drink takes a drink, and the drink takes us. Or if you take a drug, the drug wants a drug, and then the drugs want you. That's how it works. But if you don't take the first drink of drug, you don't set off the physical craving. And if you don't set off the physical craving, then what you're left with is your thinking. You're left with yourself. Now, most people are often wrong and emotionally challenged every day. So that's just reality. Only the Lord Jesus Christ is perfect. We're all to some degree in a battle of the mind with our feelings every day. And the secret, the solution, well, the known secret is to have a revelatory relationship with the Creator through the steps, through which the obsession to use is completely removed. And I will stress again, it's not a religious program. It's never been. It's about a relationship with the source of life, and that source gives us wisdom, serenity, and courage, and we learn how to live clean. Living clean is much more than not doing drugs. So what would happen for me is, there'd be what I refer to as a conspiracy of circumstances, and then I would have the desire to get clean, and then the first step is about rigorous honesty, and we have to maintain the truth. You talked beautifully about it. Well, we both talked about the truth. We have to maintain the truth. I speak in those terms. We have to take a stand for what's right and good and true in our lives. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I don't mean you. I'm talking just in a general sense. And so the fellowship, and God gives us power. God gives us power and wisdom through the program, through the steps. And we maintain our freedom through maintaining a right relationship with God. Dr. Bob would say to people in no uncertain terms, you need to get right with God. That's what he would say to people, and when persons would pray through the steps with Dr. Bob, particularly steps 6 and 7, it would be a powerful, transformative experience. And having the privilege of praying with men and occasionally women on step 6 and 7 is a very powerful thing. If you pray together, you stay together, and that works in marriages, groups, friendships. It's a very powerful thing, and maintains the unity, the bond of peace in the spirit, So, I'd like to invite you back in. We've got perhaps another couple of minutes each. I so appreciate your time. I appreciate all you do, and it's been wonderful. So, have you anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? You're muted, my friend.
Okay. Yeah. I was just I should say on the onset that I would love to come back and share. This has been a very great experience for me. A lot of the things I feel like expressing, and I don't have the platform to express, I've expressed. And I know my higher power will put more things in me to express, and I would love to come back and share again. It's all, as you said, the sharing of the truth is very therapeutic, and it's very therapeutic to me, especially that this message is going out to thousands of people, if not millions. That really makes me, it animates me to a great degree that, the message is going out there, because I'm a message carrier. That's all I can do. That's all I'll always do. I can't force anybody to do something, but I can just tell them something about what happened. And that's precisely what people did with me. They just told me what happened with them and what's happening with them, So, and that has produced miracles. I don't have to force anybody to do anything, not in my life and not even in my practice in my centers. People exercise their free will. That's what God gives them, and who am I to take that away from them? If God gives them the free will, I need to give them the free will. I just need to carry the message. That's all. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, Paul. I look forward to coming back.
Certainly, absolutely. We can certainly do this again in a couple of weeks, no problem at all. And for me, the solution is a holistic one. It's rigorous honesty, it's faith and trust, it's commitment, it's vigilance, it's growth, it's healing, it's change. You understand that? That's how I see it. If I'm not happy to be clean, maybe I'll be happy to get high. I've got to work to maintain a measure of contentment in such a world as this. So I so appreciate it. It was a phenomenal message, and I've really enjoyed listening to your share. So appreciate you So, okay, family, so that brings us to the end of today's broadcast. On the screen is information about how to get to meetings. The UK Samaritans numbers at the bottom right, as is the CA UK helpline. All those meetings are on Zoom. They're international meetings. They're on every single day. In the middle of the screen, the New Zealand Marathon is a meeting that's on 24 hours a day, a very healthy meeting. There are now actually 14 different 24-hour, maybe more. There's at least 14 different 24-hour marathons that are permanently on round the clock. There's a very healthy meeting called We Can Recover that's on 3 times a day, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9:30 UK time. But once again, that's just a selection of the meetings. There's probably 500 Zoom meetings on right now, family. So stay connected. Don't give up hope. And once again, feel free to put your number in the chat and we will get back to you. So without further ado, Kando, once again, thank you for taking time to carry the message and share some hope and some courage and some freedom with our listeners.
Oh, thank you very much, Paul. Please send me the links for the marathons. I need them, eh?
Certainly. Do you think we could both pray the Serenity Prayer together in closing?
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do that.
Who's large and in charge? God.
God,
Grant us the serenity to accept the things we can't change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much. Shalom, shalom, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.